The girl in the shadows bread was 2 days expired. She knew that. The plastic was torn at the edge. A soft patch of green clung to one slice. She tore it away and sniffed the rest. Stale, but not sour. Still soft enough to chew. She had no butter, no spread, nothing to hide the taste. So she ate it plain. In the dark, with one shaky candle lit inside an old teacup. The girl's name was Mia. She had just turned 20-1. There were no balloons, no cake, no gifts, no messages, just the sound of wind pressing against the broken window of her tiny studio apartment above the laundry shop. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars honked, lights blinked, laughter floated up from the street, but none of it belonged to her. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees, chewing each bite slowly, not because she was enjoying it, but because she didn't know when she'd eat again. She hadn't eaten since the night before. She was used to hunger now. It came and went like a ghost. But what she wasn't used to was being forgotten. Mia once had dreams, real ones. She wanted to draw children's books, paint soft animals in rain boots, sketch stories that made people feel seen. But dreams cost money. And she had none. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago from cancer. Her father had never stayed past her 3rd birthday. And the only relative she had, a distant uncle, had blocked her number when she asked for help. So she worked part-time at the laundromat below her room, folding strangers' clothes, scraping gum off dryer doors, scrubbing the floor after kids, tracked in mud. The owner paid her cash. Barely enough for rent, certainly not enough for celebration. When the last bite of bread was gone, Mia stood and walked to the small window. Rain began to fall outside, soft at first, then harder. She pressed her forehead to the glass. "Happy birthday, Mia," she whispered. "You made it." Then she wiped her eyes, blew out the candle, and curled up on the thin mattress in the corner. Somewhere across the city, a black motorcycle roared through the streets. The man riding it wore a simple leather jacket, helmet, gloves. He moved like someone who didn't need to be seen, someone who knew the road better than he knew himself. Keanu Reeves had no idea that tonight he would meet someone who would change his life. He was just trying to forget his own thoughts. He had just finished filming. The crew had wrapped. The studio party was going on without him. He didn't like crowds, didn't like fake smiles. He liked truth, quiet, stories. So he rode with no destination. Until the rain pushed him to stop. He parked near a strip of old shops. Most were closed. Neon signs flickered. One caught his eye. Miller's Laundry and Steam. The door was cracked. Open. Inside, a girl was cleaning alone. Her head down, her hands red from scrubbing. She moved like she wasn't really there. Keanu didn't need anything washed, but something made him step inside. Mia heard the bell ring and looked up quickly. She froze. Her eyes widened, not because she recognized him, but because he didn't look like the others. He didn't throw a bag at her feet, didn't ask if she spoke English. Did in single quotes T smirk or check his phone. He just nodded and said quietly, "Hi." She wiped her hands on her apron. "Sorry, we're closed." Keanu looked around. "You're working late." "I live upstairs," she said. "I needed to finish the machines." He nodded again. "Mind if I wait inside for the rain to slow down?" Mia hesitated. Then shrugged. "Okay, but no dryers work past 10. He smiled slightly. "Got it." He sat on the plastic chair near the door, watched as she returned to folding sheets. For a long time, they said nothing. The hum of machines, the tap of water, the soft crackle of old radio music filled the silence. Finally, he asked, "What's your name?" She didn't look up. "Mia. I'm Keanu." She paused. "Like the actor?" He chuckled. "Yeah, something like that." She turned, squinted, then widened her eyes slightly. "You're him." He nodded, a little embarrassed. She didn't scream, didn't grab her phone, didn't ask for a photo. Instead, she said, "I liked you in that movie with the dog." His smile grew. "Thank you. I liked making it." Another pause, then she returned to folding. After a few minutes, Keanu asked, "Was it your birthday today, Mia?" Froze again. "How did you?" "I saw the candle in your window when I pulled in," he said softly. "And you whispered something." Her face flushed. She turned away quickly. "It's nothing." He stood slowly and walked closer. but not too close. You shouldn't be alone on your birthday. He said. I've been alone on worse days, she replied, her voice tight. He looked around. Do you have dinner? She shook her head. He pulled out his phone. What do you like to eat? Don't, she said suddenly. Please. Not some sad story. He paused. I didn't think you were, he said gently. She looked at him, then really looked. His eyes were soft, tired, familiar like hers. He didn't push. Instead, he sat back down and waited. After a moment, she said, I had bread. What kind? Expired. He nodded slowly. Still counts. She laughed once. Just a breath of sound. He smiled. Then she added, you know what I really miss? What? Cinnamon rolls. He stood up again. Stay here. Why? Because I think there's a bakery 2 blocks from here that doesn't close until midnight. You're not serious. I am. But why? He looked at her. Because no one should eat expired bread on their birthday. 10 minutes later, he returned with a small box wrapped in twine. He handed it to her. She opened it carefully. For warm cinnamon rolls inside. The smell hit her like a memory. She almost cried. Almost. They sat on the floor of the laundromat and ate together. Not as celebrity and stranger. Not as charity and pity. Just a people who knew what it meant to feel forgotten. He listened as she told him about her art. He asked questions. Real ones. She showed him one of her sketches from the notebook hidden in her pocket. A little elephant in yellow boots holding an umbrella. He stared at it for a long time. You're talented, he said. It doesn't pay rent, she replied. Not yet, he said. When the clock hit midnight, he stood up slowly. Happy birthday, Mia. Thank you. He took one last cinnamon roll and wrapped it carefully. Then handed it to her. For tomorrow, he said. Because you made it through today, she smiled, the kind that came from deep inside. And for the first time in years, she felt seen. Really. Seen. Not for what she lacked. But for who she was. And that made all the difference. Asterisk. The man who came back next morning. Mia woke up before the sun. The rain had stopped, but the sky still held that soft gray look, the kind that made the world feel slow and unsure. Her studio room above the laundromat was cold, her blanket thin, but she didn't shiver. She sat up, looked around the tiny space. On the small table near the window, the last cinnamon roll still sat, wrapped in a napkin just like Keanu had left it. She stared at it for a moment, then smiled, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel completely invisible. Downstairs, the laundry machines buzzed and rumbled. The smell of detergent filled the air. Mia worked like she always did, folding shirts, sorting socks, wiping counters. But her mind wasn't in the work. It kept going back to last night, to the quiet kindness. To the way he had listened. To the way he didn't look at her with pity, but with something closer to respect. By noon, she was back upstairs on her short break. The cinnamon roll was still untouched. She wasn't saving it because she was full. She was saving it because it meant something. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Soft, careful. She froze. No one ever knocked. The landlord always yelled from below if there was a problem. She opened it slowly. And there he was. Keanu Reeves. Same black jacket. Same gentle smile. I didn't know if you'd be home, he said, holding a small paper bag. Mia blinked. You came back. He nodded. I said I would. You didn't. He tilted his head. Didn't I say for tomorrow? She looked down at the cinnamon roll, then smiled. You did. He handed her the bag. Inside was a small thermos of tea and a wrapped sandwich. Figured you might be hungry. She looked at him, unsure what to say. I don't get this, she finally said. Get what? Why you're doing this? He leaned against the doorway. Because you matter, he said simply. No one ever says that. Maybe they should. They sat on the steps outside the laundromat, sharing the food. Customers walked past. Buses rumbled by. But no one noticed him. He didn't seem to mind. Can I ask you something? Mia said. Of course. Are you really happy? He took a long breath. Some days, he said. Other days, I pretend. That makes me feel better, she said. Why? Because I always think people like you have it all figured out. He smiled. I think people like you are stronger than they know. After the food was gone, He stood up. Come with me, he said. Where? You'll see. They walked 8 blocks through the city. She kept her head low at first. People looked at them. Some whispered. One person tried to take a photo, but he waved them off gently. He didn't seem embarrassed to be seen with her. He walked beside her like an equal. They stopped in front of a quiet bookstore with soft jazz playing through the door. What are we doing here? She asked. You said you love to draw for stories, he said. This is where I come when I feel stuck. Inside, the air smelled like pages and peace. Keanu nodded to the older woman behind the counter. She smiled and waved. He led Mia to a corner filled with picture books, not new ones, old ones. Some bent, some faded. He pulled one out and handed it to her. This was my favorite when I was a kid, he said. She opened it carefully. It was about a bear who traveled alone looking for a friend who had once saved him. The last page had no words. Just a picture of the bear sitting on a bench, staring at the stars. She closed it slowly. It's beautiful, she whispered. He looked at her. Your drawings could do this. She shook her head. I don't even have proper markers. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a tiny wrapped box. She stared. What is this? Open it. She did. Inside was a set of art pens. Not cheap ones. Real ones. Professional. Her hands trembled. I can't take this. You can, he said, and you should. Tears welled in her eyes. Why me? He answered without pause. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing, and I never forgot it. This is how I pay that back. They left the store an hour later. She held the pens like they were glass. He walked her back to the laundromat. Just before he left, he turned to her. You want to draw again, don't you? She nodded. Double quotes. Then do it. I'll check in next week. She looked at him. You really mean that? I really do. He smiled again, this time wider. Then he got on his bike and rode away. Mia went back upstairs and sat by her window. She stared at the blank page for a long time, then picked up one pen and began to draw. The first sketch was shaky. A little girl holding expired bread, standing under a rain cloud. But in the corner of the page, a man in a jacket was walking toward her with a paper bag in his hand. And that was the moment her life began to change. The paper bag on the wall. Mia sat at the edge of her bed, knees tucked in, sketchbook open in her lap. Outside, the city buzzed like it always did. Cars, shouting, wind through broken gutters. But her room was still, like a quiet bubble wrapped around her. On the page, her pencil moved slow. A girl in a laundromat. A man offering her a cinnamon roll. A moment too small for headlines, but big enough to change everything. It had been 5 days since Keanu came back. 5 days since he brought her food, art pens, and something deeper, a sense that she wasn't just surviving. She was seen. He hadn't returned yet, but he had said one thing that echoed in her mind every day. I'll check in next week. So she waited. Not in silence, not in sadness. She waited by drawing. Downstairs, the laundry machines groaned as usual. The owner, Garcia, grumbled as he counted quarters. He didn't notice that Mia moved with more energy. He didn't notice her eyes had changed. But her customers did. An old woman smiled when Mia helped carry a basket. A child laughed when Mia sketched a quick bunny on their dryer sheet. Small things, but big to her. On Friday afternoon, something unusual happened. A brown paper bag was taped to the door. No name. Just 2 words written in thick black marker. For you. She peeled it off and opened it carefully. Inside was a simple sandwich, a thermos of tea, and a note folded twice. Her hands shook as she opened it. It said, I haven't forgotten. I'm still watching from the quiet places. K is single. Tear ran down her cheek. Not from sadness. From relief. She walked up to her room and set the bag down like it was a gift, sacred, like it was proof that someone out there still believed in promises. She picked up her sketchbook and began to draw. Again. This time, it wasn't a sad girl. It was a girl with light in her eyes, a paper bag in her hands, and a new beginning unfolding behind her. The next day, she took a risk. She scanned one of her drawings and uploaded it to an art site for freelancers. No one knew her. No followers, no comments. But she signed it at the bottom with one name, Mia Gray. And she whispered under her breath, let's see if the world notices. On Sunday night, her phone buzzed. A message from a woman named Lara. Hi Mia, I saw your sketch. I work for a small children's publisher. Are you available for freelance work? Mia dropped the phone. She picked it up again with shaking hands. Yes. She typed, I'm available. She didn't scream. Did in single quotes dance. She just sat in silence, holding her chest, feeling her heart beat like it had just remembered how to hope. She didn't tell Keanu right away. She wanted to see him first, in person, to say it out loud, to see the way his face would react. But Monday came, and he didn't show. Tuesday passed. Nothing. By Wednesday, her stomach twisted. Maybe he had forgotten. Maybe she was just a passing kindness in a sea of more important things. But then, on Thursday morning, her manager walked into the shop holding a box. You got a delivery, he said, annoyed. You're not supposed to get mail here. She opened it slowly. Inside was a notebook. Black leather, hand-stitched, heavy. On the first page, in careful handwriting, fill this with the world only you can see. She clutched it to her chest and cried for a long time. That night, she drew until her fingers cramped. She filled 4 pages in one sitting. And for the first time since her mother died, Mia didn't feel like a girl on the edge of life. She felt like a person inside it. The next week, Keanu returned. No motorcycle this time. He walked in quietly, holding 2 cups of tea and a plastic bag full of warm bread. These aren't expired, he said with a grin. Mia ran to him. Not with tears. With joy. She hugged him without asking. And for the first time, he hugged her back fully. You came back, she whispered. You didn't give me a reason not to, he replied. They sat in the back room, sipping tea, eating soft bread, surrounded by dryers and steam. And she told him everything. The sketch, the message from the publisher. The new work, the new version of her that had started to breathe again. He didn't speak for a long time. Just listened. Then, finally, he said, I'm proud of you. She looked down, her cheeks red. I'm proud of you too, she said. He raised an eyebrow. For what? For being kind in a world that doesn't always reward kindness. Before he left, she asked, why me? He stopped in the doorway. Because kindness doesn't always knock, he said. Sometimes it waits to be let in. And you opened the door. Mia stood at the window after he left, holding the leather notebook. She pressed it to her chest and looked out at the city like it finally belonged to her too. Because something had changed. Not just her drawings, not just her future, but the way she saw herself. Not forgotten. Not broken. Just beginning. Asterisk. The girl on the flyer. It was almost sunrise when Mia woke to the sound of tapping. Not loud, not urgent. Just gentle enough to feel like a dream. She sat up slowly, rubbed her eyes, and looked toward the small window above the bed. A shadow moved behind the glass. Then came a voice, low, warm, familiar. It's just me. Keanu. She opened the door in her oversized hoodie and socks. Her hair was messy, her eyes still heavy with sleep. He stood there holding 2 coffees and a paper bag. You keep bringing bags, she said with a sleepy smile. You keep earning them, he said. She stepped aside, letting him in. He placed the bag on the little table near her sketchbook. What's in it this time? She asked. Breakfast, he replied. And something else. Mia poured the drinks into mismatched mugs while he looked at the walls. They were slowly changing. A few of her sketches now hung there, taped, curled at the corners. But proud. You've been busy, he said. I'm trying, she answered. Then he handed her something. A flyer. She read the title out loud. Emerging Voices Art and Story Night. Open gallery for new talent. She blinked. What is this? A community gallery is holding an art and story showcase next weekend, he explained. It's free to enter. No rules, no pressure. Just people and stories. Mia held the paper tightly. You want me to go? I want you to show the world what you've been showing me. She sat down quiet. He didn't rush her. Then she whispered, what if no one claps? He smiled gently. Then I'll be the first. The days that followed were filled with something Mia hadn't felt in a long time, that purpose. She stayed up late, sketching. Not for money. Not for clients. But for herself. Each drawing told a part of her story. A girl with hollow eyes eating bread. A man arriving with a paper bag and warmth. A notebook that opened like a door to another life. On the morning of the event, Mia stood in front of her mirror in a simple dress and clean sneakers. Her hands trembled as she brushed her hair. Her heart beat louder than the city outside. She had printed 6 drawings and mounted them on thin boards, each had a title. But no name. Just her initials, MG. She didn't want people to know who she was. She just wanted them to feel. Keanu met her outside the gallery. He wore jeans and a dark shirt. Nothing fancy, but he had a quiet calm about him that made everything feel safe. "You look nervous," he said. "I'm terrified." She whispered. "Good," he said. "That means it matters." Inside, the gallery was buzzing. Small lights lit up the artwork. People walked slowly from piece to piece, holding small glasses of water and tiny notebooks. Mia stood near the back. Hiding. Watching. And then something happened that stopped her breath. A woman in a red scarf stood in front of one of her sketches, the one with the girl under the rain. The woman began to cry. Quietly. Then she turned to her friend and whispered, "This is me. This is exactly how I felt last year." Mia covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. Not from fear. From recognition. Keanu walked over, gently touched her shoulder. "You see," he said softly, "you're not invisible." By the end of the night, 5 people had asked who the artist was. The gallery owner approached her with a smile. "We'd love to feature you again," he said. "Next month, your own space." Mia could barely speak. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu stood nearby, watching her. Not proud of the art. Proud of the courage. Outside, under the stars, she turned to him. "You changed everything." He shook his head. "No," he said. "I just reminded you of what you already were." She smiled, then did something she hadn't done since her mother died. She reached for his hand, held it. Not tightly. Just enough. They walked down the sidewalk like that. To people who had found something unexpected in the middle of an ordinary city. Not fame. Not fortune, but connection. Later that night, back in her room, Mia hung the flyer on her wall, not to remember the event, but to remember the moment she stopped being afraid of being seen. On the back of the flyer, Keanu had written one sentence: "You were never broken, only waiting to be noticed." And finally, she believed it. The offer she couldn't believe. Mia didn't sleep much that night. Her sketchbooks were all over the floor, pencils scattered. The soft light of the desk lamp stretched into the early morning hours. But she wasn't tired. She was alive. Really alive. Her drawing had made someone cry, not out of sadness, but because they felt understood. For the first time, Mia knew what her art could do. Around 6 a.m., her phone buzzed with a message from Lara, the editor who had first contacted her weeks ago. "I showed your sketches to my director. We'd love to meet you next week. Possible book deal discussion. Is that okay?" Mia dropped the phone again, then picked it up and texted one word: "Yes." She sat there, stunned. A book deal? Was this even real? By the time she opened the laundromat for the morning shift, her hands were still shaking. She tried to fold towels, but dropped half of them. Garcia muttered something about clumsy kids, but Mia barely heard him. She was floating, and she needed to tell someone. She needed to tell him. Keanu hadn't stopped by in a few days, not because he forgot her, but because he wanted her to stand on her own 2 feet. He believed in her more than she believed in herself, and he didn't want to overshadow her success. But that afternoon, as she was cleaning the window, she saw the motorcycle. Her heart jumped. He parked like always. Simple, quiet, never loud. She ran outside barefoot, apron still tied around her waist. "Keanu," she called out. He turned just as she reached him, and, without a second thought, she hugged him. Hard. He held her gently, surprised. "Everything okay?" he asked. She nodded quickly. "No," she laughed. "Nothing's okay. Everything's amazing." She pulled back and looked at him with wide eyes. "They want me to draw a book, a real one. They saw my art from the gallery. And Lara, she wants me to come in." He smiled, not wide. Not shocked. Just proud, like he'd been waiting for her to say it. "I told you," he said softly. "I thought it was impossible." She whispered, The best stories are the ones that start with nothing, he replied. And you started with expired bread. They both laughed, then fell into silence. But it wasn't awkward. It was full, like they were both watching something grow that had been buried too long. That night, Keanu invited her to dinner. Not fancy. Not a celebrity place. Just a quiet outdoor cafe by the water. They sat under soft lights, drinking tea and sharing rice bowls. She asked him about his life. He told her more than she expected. About grief. About loneliness. About what it meant to feel like the world only saw the mask and not the man behind it. But with you, he said, I don't feel like an actor. What do you feel like? She asked gently. Like a person. She nodded. Because that's exactly how she felt with him. Not small. Not broken. Just human. As they walked along the water after dinner, she noticed something in his expression. Something quiet, searching. What is it? She asked. He paused, hands in his pockets. I was thinking, he said, about how many people we pass every day without seeing them. How many people we walk by who are carrying too much. She looked at him, her eyes soft. Like me. He nodded. And how lucky I was to stop in front of a laundry shop that night. She smiled. That wasn't luck. What was it then? Maybe someone knew we both needed something. They reached a bench near the edge of the water. Sat down together. The city lights shimmered on the surface. Mia leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you think this will last? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I think anything built on truth has a chance to last forever. The next day, Mia walked into the children's publishing office for the first time in her life. Nervous. Hopeful. Her drawings in a folder under her arm. Lara greeted her with a warm smile and led her into a small room with a round table. There were two people waiting, a man in a gray suit and a woman with thick glasses and kind eyes. They asked her questions about her characters, her stories, her vision. Mia spoke softly, but clearly. She told them about the laundromat, about the cinnamon roll, about how her art came from the quiet spaces in her life. They listened. And at the end, the man nodded. We'd like to offer you a contract, he said. You'd work with our team to illustrate a new picture book. We believe in your voice. Mia felt her heart stop. Then race. Thank you, she whispered, tears forming. When she walked out of the building, the sun was high and warm. She didn't call Keanu. She didn't need to. He was already waiting outside on his bike, helmet under his arm. He looked at her face and knew. They said yes? He asked. She nodded. He smiled as she ran to him again, not because she needed saving, but because she wanted to share the moment with the one person who saw her before the world did. That night, she taped the contract to her wall. Next to the sketch of the girl holding bread. Next to the paper bag note. Next to the flyer from the gallery. Her wall was becoming a map of every moment that reminded her she mattered. She always did, even when no one else noticed. Asterisk. The art of being seen. It rained again on her birthday. 1 year later. Same date. Same city. But nothing else was the same. No more cracked window. No more folding clothes in silence. No more eating stale bread on the floor with the lights off. This time, Mia stood in front of a bookstore with her name printed in big bold letters across the window. Author appearance today, Mia Gray. Signing her first children's book. Her hands trembled as she pressed her fingers to the glass. Inside were people. Real people. Holding her book. Smiling. Waiting to meet her. The past year had been a quiet storm of change. The publishing deal turned into a book. The book turned into shelves. And the shelves turned into moments where strangers whispered, "This made my child feel understood." She had gone from someone invisible to someone whose words and drawings made children feel safe. But even with all the good news, she still woke up remembering how it all began. A piece of expired bread, a single candle in a chipped cup, and a man who walked into the laundromat without asking for anything. Just to sit. Just to care. The door of the bookstore opened behind her. Lara peeked out, holding a cup of coffee. "They're ready when you are," she said. Mia turned, holding her breath. "Do you think I can do this?" she asked quietly. Lara nodded. "You already did." Inside, the crowd clapped when she stepped in. Children ran up with copies of her book. Parents smiled. A few even asked to take pictures. Mia signed each one slowly, carefully. She took time to talk to each child. Asked them their names. Asked them what they dreamed of. And in every one of their answers, she saw a small reflection of who she used to be. Quiet, hopeful, waiting to be noticed. An hour later, a man stepped into the back of the bookstore. He wore a hoodie, sunglasses, jeans, trying not to be seen. But she saw him instantly. Keanu. She excused herself and walked to him, heart pounding. You came, she whispered. He pulled the sunglasses down slightly and smiled. I said I'd always be watching from the quiet places. Her eyes filled. This happened because of you. He shook his head. No, he said. It happened because of the girl who kept drawing, even when the world wasn't looking. They sat in the back corner of the shop. Away from cameras. Away from attention. Just like old times. She handed him a copy of the book. He flipped through the pages and stopped at one. A girl sitting in a laundromat, holding a paper bag, smiling. He looked up. This is page 6, she said. The beginning of everything. He ran his fingers over the drawing. You're amazing, Mia. She looked down. You made me believe that. After the signing, they walked out into the rain. Not running, not hiding. Just walking. Together. She pulled her coat tight and looked up. Do you think life will ever stop surprising us? She asked. He smiled. I hope not. They stopped in front of a small bakery. The smell of cinnamon rolls drifted into the street. She grinned. You want one? He asked. She nodded. Only if they're not expired. They both laughed. Inside, they sat at a small table near the window. He bought the cinnamon rolls and a warm tea. She broke hers in half and offered him a piece. He took it, smiling. This is still the best birthday I've ever had, she said. Mine, too, he replied. She raised her cup. To the people who show up when no one else does. He raised his. And to the ones who keep going, even when it hurts. They toasted. Softly. Quietly. Just two people. Just two hearts. Just one story that had been saved from the shadows. Later that night, Mia returned home and stood in front of her wall. It was covered now. Sketches. Photos. Flyers. The notebook Keanu had given her. The bag from the laundry. The book contract. And above it all, one tiny napkin that she had never thrown away. It simply read, no one should eat expired bread on their birthday. She smiled, then picked up her pencil and began to draw again. Not for a gallery, not for a publisher. Just for herself. Because now, she finally believed she was worth drawing. She was worth being seen. She was worth everything.